This is Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe. We can also be heard on the internet at www.ri.ro, Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn, Radio Romania International 1, and via satellite Eutelsat 16A on 11,512 MHz, vertical polarization, azimuth 16 degrees east. We wish you good reception conditions.
Hello, this is Daniel with the news, the headlines. Hundreds of accountants and economists protested in front of the government building in Bucharest on Monday, disgruntled by some of the government decisions regarding the digitalization of the fiscal administration. The National Institute for Statistics, the INS, has revised up Romania's economic growth in the first quarter of the year to 0.7% from a prior estimate of 0.4%. And Romania's air carrier Tarom has announced that 10 of its flights on the Henri Coandă airport have been cancelled after 20 pilots and other crew members invoked health issues, which prevented them from taking off. Hundreds of accountants and economists protested in front of the government building in Bucharest on Monday, disgruntled by some of the government decisions regarding the digitalization of the fiscal administration. Similar actions have been taken in Iași, northeastern Romania, Timișoara in the west, and Bistrița in the northwest. Members of the Employers Association of the Romanian Accountant Entrepreneurs say that the introduction of some mechanisms such as the e-invoice or the e-VAT will raise bureaucracy, as people will need to fill in many forms. Furthermore, the accountants complained that the technical instruments made available by the Finance Ministry aren't functioning properly. The protest was also supported by travel associations and organizations in the hospitality industry, as well as by the family physicians. The National Institute for Statistics, the INS, has revised up Romania's economic growth in the first quarter of the year to 0.7% from a prior estimate of 0.4%. Compared to the same quarter of 2023, the GDP registered an increase of 0.5% on the gross series and 2.2% on the seasonally adjusted series, according to provisional data the INS published on Monday. The country's budget for the current year is based on an economic growth of 3.4%. Romania's air carrier Tarom has announced that 10 of its flights on the Henri Coandă airport have been cancelled after 20 pilots, flight commanders, co-pilots and other crew members invoked health issues which prevented them from taking off. The company has announced that some flights are to be rescheduled for tomorrow and that several hundreds of passengers, mostly foreigners, left on the airport terminals will get refunds. The company has refrained from describing the event as a strike, but for the time being the reasons behind the action remain unknown. Among the flights cancelled are those to Beirut, Cairo, Budapest, Iași, Madrid, Amsterdam, Paris and Frankfurt. In this context, Romania's delegation, which was supposed to participate in the NATO summit in Washington, had to resort to a military plane. Romanians and foreign tourists visiting Romania are increasingly interested in culture, said the Minister of Culture, Raluca Turcan. She specified that the number of people visiting museums, public collections, botanical gardens, zoos Aquariums and nature reserves increased in 2023 by more than 3 million compared to 2022. Mrs. Turkan has appreciated the professionalism and dedication of all those in the cultural sector who managed to increase public interest in cultural events and activities, as confirmed by the latest figures of the National Institute for Statistics. The Romanian-Ukrainian pair Gabriela Rus and Marta Kostyuk qualified on Sunday for the next round of the women's doubles event at the Wimbledon tennis tournament after defeating Yana Sizikova of Russia and Yafan Wang China 6-4, 6-4. Rus and Kostyuk, who last year stopped in the second round of the Grand Slam tournament on grass, will be playing on Tuesday against the second-seeded Gabriela Dabrowski of Canada and Erin Rutleaf of New Zealand. Let's now have a look at the weather in Romania, which is hot in most of the regions, but especially in the country's south, west and southeast, where the thermal comfort index has again exceeded the 80-unit threshold. The sky is clear mainly in the country's south and southeast, with showers reported in isolated areas in the Carpathians. The highs of the day range between 32 and 39 degrees Celsius, with 39 degrees expected in Bucharest, whose inhabitants are bracing up for another hot week and more thermal discomfort. And that was the news.